10 years ago, a scared 14-year-old boy crash-landed on a deadly alien world. He should have died. Instead, he saved a warrior princess. Before she vanished, she gave him a kiss and a promise. Come back when you're a man. The reward will be worth it. Now he's back, and she never forgot. The twin suns of Proxima Centauri b burned bright overhead, turning the rocky red landscape into a furnace. Jack Harmon, now 24, stood tall in his worn exosuit, sweat dripping down his face. His muscles ached from the long journey, but his heart beat faster for a different reason. His ship's AI had just confirmed it. He was close. Coordinates locked, atmosphere stable, landing initiated. As the landing gear groaned and touched the hot ground, Jack felt something he hadn't allowed himself in years: hope. His mind flashed back to the day everything changed. He'd been just a boy, alone and terrified after his escape pod crashed on this hellish world. For 3 weeks, he survived on instinct, training, and luck. And then he saw her. Silver hair, glowing orange skin, eyes rimmed in soft purple light. Surrounded by mercenaries cornered on a cliffside, she looked more like a vision than anything real. 14-year-old Jack had no weapon, no strength, and no plan. But he had something else: heart. He picked up the largest rock he could lift and threw it. It barely scratched the mercenary, but it was enough to distract him. The alien girl didn't waste the moment. Her movements were like water, graceful and deadly. In seconds, 2 of the attackers were down. The third charged Jack. He dodged, years of schoolyard fights teaching him to move fast. The alien girl handled the rest. When it was over, she turned to him, breathing hard, her strange markings glowing faintly. "You have courage, little human," she said in a voice he would never forget. Foolish courage, but still rare. She stepped close, her silvery hair brushing his face, and kissed his cheek. Not romantic. Not yet. But enough to leave a fire in his heart for 10 years. Her words were soft, teasing, unforgettable. Come back when you're a man. The reward will be worth it. Then she vanished, her figure lost among the red rocks and burning light. And just like that, Jack had a reason to live, to grow, to become more. Now he was back. As the ship's door opened, hot wind rushed in. Jack stepped out onto the same cracked soil, his boots crunching over dust and memory. The settlement he remembered was no longer just tents and stone huts. Sleek towers rose in the distance, glowing with alien energy. He walked toward them, every step heavy with purpose. 2 armed guards stopped him at the gate. Their golden skin shimmered under the twin suns, weapons pointed and expressions cold. "State your business," one demanded in a firm voice. Jack raised his hands calmly. "I'm looking for someone, an Australian woman. I met her 10 years ago." The guards exchanged glances. "Many Australians live here." "Name?" He hesitated. "I don't know her name. She had silver hair, markings on her skin. She saved me once from mercenaries." The guard's eyes narrowed, then slowly widened. Recognition flickered. "You speak of Commander Nalara." Jack felt his heart drop and soar at the same time. She was still here, and not just alive. She had become a commander. "Wait here," the guard said, speaking into a device. Jack stood, still feeling sweat gather behind his neck. He stared at his reflection in a glass panel nearby. This wasn't the same boy from before. His face was sharper now, his eyes harder. The Colonial Forces armor fit tight across his strong frame. 10 years of disciplined training and battles, all for this. Minutes stretched until finally the gates opened. A figure stepped forward. Jack's breath caught. She hadn't changed. Silver hair, longer now, braided down her back. Her uniform hugged her figure in a way that reminded him of that day. And her eyes, those same strange, glowing eyes, met his with calm fire. She stopped a few paces away, arms behind her back. Her voice was the same, melodic, cool, just slightly teasing. "So," she said, You've returned. After all this time. Jack swallowed. I made a promise. She smiled, just slightly. Yes, you did. And now, you are a man. She stepped closer. He could smell something warm, sweet, foreign. Her presence made his chest tighten. The question is, she said softly, what kind of man have you become, Jack Harmon? He stared at her, heart racing. She knew his name. Nilara laughed gently, a sound like distant wind chimes. I've known since the day you threw rocks at mercenaries. Foolish, brave, human. She leaned in, her voice low near his ear. Follow me, she said. Let's find out if the reward was really worth the wait. Jack followed her through the settlement in silence, his boots crunching on the reddish soil, his mind spinning with questions. The alien buildings around him were strange yet beautiful. Curved stone structures that shimmered like they were alive, energy flowing through their seams. Every few steps, curious eyes followed him. Some filled with curiosity, others with suspicion. He noticed it quickly. No one here looked like him, no other humans. Just Australians, tall, graceful, glowing. And among them, Nilara stood apart even more. She walked with authority, each step measured, silent, but powerful. Her uniform bore a sleek emblem at the chest, a symbol of her high status. Yet every so often she would glance sideways at Jack, and when their eyes met there was a flicker of something soft beneath the surface. You've changed, she said, breaking the silence as they entered a quieter path lined with tall silver plants. I had to, Jack replied, his voice steady. I spent 10 years preparing. For this. For me? She asked, one eyebrow slightly raised. Jack didn't answer at first, his gaze fixed on the alien trees swaying in the hot breeze. Not just for you, he said finally. But yeah, mostly. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. They entered a large circular building at the far end of the settlement. Inside, cool air washed over Jack as the door closed behind them with a soft hum. The walls were covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly, symbols that felt ancient, sacred. Nilara gestured to the center of the chamber, where a circular platform pulsed with light. This is the Chamber of Ascension, she said. It's where your trials will begin. Jack blinked. Trials? You didn't think a kiss and 10 years of waiting were enough? She asked with a teasing edge, though her eyes were serious. Jack laughed lightly. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. You said the reward would be worth it. Nilara stepped closer. Among my people, she said softly, saving someone's life creates a bond, a right. You earned the chance to attempt something no human has ever been offered. And what exactly am I attempting? Her gaze deepened. Union, companionship, belonging. With us. With me. Jack's chest tightened. There was weight in her words, something deeper than romance. More powerful than attraction. This wasn't just about love. This was about identity, purpose. Before he could answer, a voice echoed through the chamber. Another figure stepped forward from the shadows. Taller than most, sharp features, glowing golden-orange skin, etched with darker markings. His eyes, fixed on Jack with thinly veiled contempt. Krell, Nilara said, her tone hardening. I object, Krell said immediately, ignoring Jack. This human has no place in our sacred rites. He is an outsider. Unworthy. Nilara stepped forward. He saved my life. You know the law. The law was never meant for him. Jack folded his arms, not moving. I'm standing right here, you know. Krell's eyes narrowed. You are nothing more than a curious pet who wandered too far from his masters. Jack didn't react. Years of military training kept him calm, but something in Nilara's face changed. She didn't like that. The council has already approved his right to attempt the trials, she said. If he fails, he leaves. If he succeeds, he becomes one of us. Krell scoffed. If he succeeds, that's assuming he survives. Jack stepped forward, meeting the taller alien's glare without fear. If you're trying to scare me, you're wasting your time. Krell's markings pulsed, a subtle but aggressive sign. The trial will reveal the truth. Your bloodline has no place in our future. Then I'll just have to prove you wrong, Jack said, voice calm. Nilara placed a hand on Jack's chest, gently guiding him back. Enough. The first trial begins tomorrow. Let the chamber rest. Krell gave a cold bow and turned, vanishing into the shadows. The tension eased slightly once he was gone. Not your biggest fan, is he? Jack asked, exhaling. He was once a candidate for my bond, Nilara said simply. Until you showed up. Jack blinked. Wait, 10 years ago? She nodded. After you left, Krell grew possessive, competitive. Your presence threatened that. He's been waiting for a chance to tear you down ever since. Jack tilted, his head. So this is personal. Very. He looked at her, really looked at her. Her expression was unreadable, but her markings pulsed slightly faster now. She was angry, not just at Krell, but maybe at herself, at how complicated things had become. Do you regret it? Jack asked quietly. Kissing me, making that promise. She turned to face him fully, eyes glowing faintly in the chamber light. I regret nothing. You were foolish, yes, but brave. No Australian male ever challenged mercenaries for me. You're not an ordinary woman, Jack said. Even when I was 14, I knew that. A soft silence hung between them, heavy with memory and something new, something rising. I didn't expect you to come back, she admitted. But I did. And now, she said, stepping even closer. I must see if you are truly what I sensed in you all those years ago. Jack met her gaze. I'm not afraid. You should be, she whispered. She turned and walked toward a side door that opened silently as she approached. Just before disappearing, she glanced back at him. Rest. Tomorrow, the real test begins. As the door closed behind her, Jack remained in the center of the chamber, the alien lights dancing softly around him. His heart beat loud in the silence. He'd come back for her. Now he would have to prove he was worthy to stay. Jack barely slept that night. The bed they gave him was soft, the room quiet and cool, but his mind was racing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, Nilara, her glowing eyes watching him, her voice whispering that tomorrow he would be tested. Not in strength alone, but in something deeper, something ancient. When the twin suns finally peeked over the jagged mountains in the distance, Jack was already dressed. He stood by the window of his room, staring at the settlement outside. It looked so peaceful, so alien, and yet he'd never felt more drawn to a place in his life. A soft chime echoed through the room. The door slid open on its own. Nilara entered, dressed differently this time. Not in her commander's uniform, but in something ceremonial, flowing dark fabric with silver accents that shimmered with her every movement. Her markings glowed brighter than usual, and her expression was unreadable. It's time, she said. Jack followed her down silent halls, their footsteps soft on the smooth stone floor. Eventually, they reached the same chamber from the day before. This time, however, it felt alive. The markings on the walls pulsed faster. The air itself hummed with energy. 5 figures stood waiting, elders clearly based on the complexity of the markings on their skin. They wore long robes, and each one regarded Jack like he was a strange creature pulled from the sea. One of them stepped forward, an older female whose eyes held both wisdom and warning. You enter the chamber of reflection, she said. It will not test your strength, but your truth. Jack said nothing. He just nodded. The elder extended her hand. Step onto the platform. Jack obeyed. The platform's surface was cool beneath his boots. The elder touched a symbol carved into the floor, and instantly the world around him changed. The chamber vanished. He stood alone in total silence. Then came the fog. Thick white mist rolled in, swallowing the air around him. He reached for his weapon on instinct, but it was gone. His exosuit, stripped. He wore only a simple shirt and trousers now. All right, he muttered to himself. This is happening. Shapes began to form in the mist. Shadows. Voices. At first they were whispers. Soft, broken pieces of memory. Then they became sharper. Jack turned as a familiar voice called his name. His stomach dropped. Captain Reynolds. He stepped from the fog, fully dressed in his old battle armor, face smeared with ash and blood. You left us, Reynolds said, his voice heavy with pain. We died. Because of you. Jack swallowed hard. He remembered this moment on Proxima Centauri 4, ambushed, ordered to retreat to deliver vital intel. He had survived. Most of his squad hadn't. I followed orders, Jack said quietly. I didn't want to leave, but if I hadn't... Excuses, another voice cut in. A younger soldier appeared, his face one Jack hadn't seen since that day. We trusted you, and you left us behind. Jack's fists clenched. I didn't leave you. I tried to save as many as I could. The voices circled him, louder, now, accusing, haunting. You're not a hero, they hissed. You're a coward with good aim. Jack dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The fog swirled tighter, his own guilt wrapped around him like chains. And then, just as suddenly, the battlefield melted away. He stood in his childhood home, a tiny kitchen, cracked walls. His father stood by the door with a duffel bag, avoiding eye contact. I'm leaving, his father said coldly. You're not worth staying for. That one line had lived in Jack's heart for years. It had burned in silence, pushing him to be stronger, better, tougher, to prove he was worth something. But now in this fog-made world, Jack stood up straighter. That wasn't my fault, he said aloud. You left because you couldn't handle your life, not because of me. The scene shattered like glass. And then came the worst one, Nilara. But it wasn't her, not really. This version stood above him, surrounded by other Australian males, laughing. You thought I wanted you? She scoffed. You're just a human, weak, temporary, a toy. The laughter from the others was sharp, cruel. Jack's throat tightened. He wanted to believe it wasn't real. But what if this was her true feeling? What if he'd imagined the connection? What if he'd wasted a decade chasing a fantasy? He stepped back, uncertain, but then he looked at her, at it, and something shifted in him. No, he said quietly. You're not her. The fake Nilara's eyes narrowed. She believed in me. She never mocked me. And she would never need to tear someone down, to feel powerful. The fake twisted snarl forming on its face. The illusion cracked. Jack stood firm, glaring into the fog. You're not her, he repeated, and I know who I am. The fog screamed and vanished. In an instant, the true chamber returned. The elders stood where they had before, looking shocked. Nilara stepped forward, her eyes wide with something Jack couldn't read. He was covered in sweat, his breathing heavy, but he stood tall. What happened? He asked. The elder stepped forward, examining a small panel hidden in the wall. Her markings pulsed quickly. There was a device embedded in the chamber, she said. It shouldn't be there. It amplified the illusions, made them too real, dangerous. Jack frowned. So someone tried to break me. Krell, Nilara whispered, eyes darkening. The elder turned sharply. This is unacceptable. Sabotage during a trial is a disgrace. Two guards hurried away, likely going to find Krell. Nilara came closer, studying Jack. You resisted it even under extreme pressure. I saw through the lies, Jack replied. I knew what was real and what wasn't. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the elder lifted her head. Trial of reflection completed. The other elders nodded, slowly, still visibly impressed. You've done more than survive, one of them said. You exposed dishonor, and you faced yourself. Jack met Nilara's eyes. So, he asked softly, how am I doing so far? Her lips curled into that rare half-smile. You're not the boy I met. That much is clear. There was something new in her gaze now, not curiosity, not hope, respect. You've just taken your first step, she said, and the path only gets harder. I didn't come for the easy parts. He looked around the chamber. His chest still burned. His hands still shook. But his mind was clear. He had come back not just for Nilara, but to see if he was ready to become something more. And now, deep in this alien world, facing things no human ever had, Jack Harmon was just getting started. Jack didn't know what he expected from the second trial, but it definitely wasn't a jungle wrapped in fire. Hours after the fog trial ended, Nilara led him to a new part of the settlement, far from the quiet elegance of the central chambers. This area felt older, wilder. Even the air smelled different, earthy, electric, like the moment before a lightning storm. The path ended at a wide, dome-shaped structure with walls made of dark stone. Glowing vines climbed across it, pulsing, gently, as if the building itself was breathing. Inside, the air changed instantly. It was hotter, heavier. The chamber wasn't artificial. It was a living environment. The walls curved around a miniature ecosystem. Thick alien plants, jagged rock formations, strange fungi and mist rising from glowing pools. Nilara turned to Jack, her expression serious. This is the chamber of adaptation, she said. Everything in here was designed to push your body to its limits. You'll face heat, toxins, unstable terrain, and aggressive flora. Jack raised a brow. So, you're saying the plants are going to try to kill me? Yes, she said flatly. They will. Before he could make another joke, the eldest of the council stepped forward. Her voice was calm but powerful. You must enter without weapons or assistance. Your suit will be disabled. No technology, no shortcuts, only instinct and will. Jack took a deep breath. He unsealed his exosuit piece by piece, the cool protective layer peeling away to expose his skin to the burning humidity of the chamber. His shirt clung to him instantly. The elder pointed to the far side of the biome. There lies the emblem of ascension. Retrieve it. Bring it back. One full planetary rotation. If you survive, you pass. The floor beneath his bare feet trembled softly. The trial had already begun. Any tips? Jack asked Nilara. She hesitated, her eyes scanning the chamber. Watch the red-leafed plants. They're territorial, and, if you hear clicking, move fast. Jack managed a crooked smile. Comforting. He stepped forward, and the chamber door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The heat was immediate, like walking into a furnace. Jack squinted, wiping sweat from his brow as he took his first careful steps. The ground felt unstable, like it could shift at any moment. Roots writhed just under the surface, following his movements. Every step was a negotiation with the land. He moved through thick foliage, ducking under low branches that dripped with glowing sap. At one point, a cluster of blue moss released a mist that made his vision blur. He backed away quickly, holding his breath, stumbling into thorny vines that hissed when touched. This place didn't want him here. And it wasn't just random danger. Something was wrong. Jack crouched behind a rock to catch his breath, watching, a patch of rust-colored ferns in front of him. They didn't behave like the others. When wind passed through, most plants swayed gently. These ones trembled and leaned. Like they were sensing him. He picked up a small rock and tossed it into the patch. The ferns exploded upward, spraying a fine mist into the air. The rock hissed, dissolving in seconds. Jack's stomach turned. That wasn't just alien nature, that was sabotage. He scanned the edges of the chamber and spotted something unnatural. A small black device barely visible between two stones. It was pulsing faintly. Alien tech, but not native to the chamber. It didn't belong. He didn't have to guess who had placed it there. Krell. Gritting his teeth, Jack avoided the trap zone and pressed deeper into the jungle. Each breath burned now. His limbs felt heavy, his eyes blurred with sweat, but the center of the chamber was near. A wide, glowing platform rose ahead. At its center hovered a crystalline emblem, floating inches above a stone pedestal. He approached slowly. Behind him, something moved. He spun around in time to see a hidden panel slide open in the chamber wall. Krell emerged, not with a weapon, but a control device in his hands. "End of the line, human," Krell sneered. "Your kind doesn't belong here. This trial ends now." He pressed a button. The chamber's environment screamed, temperature skyrocketed, gas vents burst. The plants began to thrash like animals in pain. A violent wind ripped through the air, knocking Jack to the ground. He barely managed to grab the emblem before rolling into cover behind a rock outcrop. Poison spores clouded the air. His lungs screamed, his vision dimmed. Then he heard it. A voice, muffled but urgent. "Jack!" Nilara burst into the chamber, an emergency respirator on her face. She tossed him a second mask, which he clumsily strapped on. "You're not supposed to be here," he gasped. "You're not supposed to be dying either," she snapped, pulling him up. "The whole chamber is collapsing." He overloaded the system. Jack looked toward the panel where Krell had disappeared. If we don't stop him, he could bring down the entire settlement's environmental systems. Nilara didn't argue. She just nodded once. Together, they slipped into the maintenance tunnel behind the false wall. It was narrow, dimly lit, with conduits running along the ceiling. Jack's muscles screamed from exhaustion, but he kept going. Ahead, Krell was hunched over a control hub, fingers flying across the interface. He turned just as Jack lunged. The two collided, crashing into a tangle of cables. Krell fought like a wild animal, but Jack had years of Colonial Forces combat training. He blocked a strike, twisted and slammed Krell into the wall, forcing the control device from his hand. It clattered to the floor. Nilara stepped forward, weapon drawn. "It's over," she said. Krell stared up at her, panting. "You'd choose him, a human, over your own kind?" Nilara's voice was steady. "He's earned his place, you just lost yours." Security arrived moments later. Krell didn't resist. The fight had left him. He was dragged away silently. Back in the chamber, the atmosphere was stabilizing, but the damage was done. Nilara coughed hard, her skin dulling slightly from toxin. "Exposure. You need medical care," Jack said, lifting her into his arms. "The emblem," she murmured. He showed it to her. "You did it," she said softly. "You passed." In the Australian medical wing, Nilara was placed inside a glowing regeneration pod. Her markings pulsed weakly, reacting to the energy around her. Jack stood by her side for hours, still clutching the emblem. Elders entered quietly behind him. "You risked your life for her," one said. "I didn't care about the trial," Jack replied without turning. "I cared about her." The elder's voice was thoughtful. "Then perhaps you've already passed the most important test." As the regeneration pod glowed brighter, Nilara's eyes slowly opened. Her gaze locked on Jack's. "You stayed," she whispered. Jack smiled. "Of course I did." Her hand rose weakly, brushing his. Outside, the news of Krell's betrayal and Jack's survival spread fast. Some whispered that this human had done the impossible. Others whispered something stranger. That when the chamber nearly died, it tried to protect him. And Jack, without even realizing it, had begun to change. Not just inside, but something far deeper, something written in his skin. The next trial would be unlike anything either of them expected, because Jack Harmon wasn't just proving himself. He was becoming something new. Jack stood at the edge of the ceremonial cliff, staring out at the horizon where the dual suns of Proxima Centauri b bled golden fire into a darkening sky. Below him, the alien sea churned against jagged black rocks, the wind carrying a scent of minerals and something electric, like ozone before lightning. He didn't feel peace. He felt the storm. Nilara was alive, healing. But she'd come too close, to death in that chamber. And not because of the trial. Because someone had tried to kill him. Someone who wore the same colors as her people. Krell was gone now, imprisoned and stripped of his status. But his actions had left a mark, not just on Jack and Nilara, but on the entire settlement. Tensions were rising. Some Australians now whispered that allowing a human to walk the sacred paths had invited dishonor, that the damage in the adaptation chamber was a sign, that he was a threat. But others, they saw something else. They saw Jack carrying an unconscious Nilara from a burning chamber with the emblem of ascension still clenched in his hand. They saw the markings beginning to form on his skin. They saw a prophecy waking. Jack stared down at his bare forearm, where a faint glowing pattern now shimmered just beneath the surface. Pale blue lines similar to Australian markings, but sharper. Different. His difference was becoming visible. It scared them. And maybe it scared him too. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. He turned, expecting Nilara. But it was someone else. The eldest counselor, the one with the intricate facial markings and eyes like molten silver. "You're not resting," she said, her voice dry but not unkind. "Didn't feel like sleeping," Jack replied. The elder stepped beside him, gazing out at the sea. "Your bond with Nilara runs deep," she said. "Even now, while she sleeps in recovery, her markings glow in rhythm with yours. That has never happened before. Not with one of your kind." Jack stayed quiet. "There is a tradition," the elder continued, "rarely spoken of. A final trial, usually reserved only for pairs chosen to join as lifelong companions." Jack turned to her, alert. "I thought the trial of essence bonding came after ascension." "In your case," the elder said carefully, "it may be necessary sooner." "Why?" he asked. The elder met his eyes. "Because Nilara's place in our culture is not just as a soldier or commander. She is significant, a symbol. And now so are you." Jack frowned. "You think bonding early will prove something to your people?" "I think it may save something," she replied. "You're not just completing trials anymore, Jack Harmon. You are reshaping what they mean." A long silence passed between them. "I haven't even asked her yet," Jack said softly. "You won't have to," the elder replied. "She's already asked the council." That stunned him. Nilara, calm, measured Nilara, had requested early bonding. "She never asks for favors," Jack said. "She didn't ask for a favor," the elder said. "She made a promise." Then she walked away, her robe whispering across the stone. That night, Jack found Nilara sitting beneath a silver-barked tree near the medical wing, her skin still faintly pale, but her eyes bright with fire. She looked up as he approached. "You're getting harder to track," she said with a tired smile. I wasn't hiding. "No," she said, "but you were thinking too loud, I could feel it." They sat together in silence for a few minutes, the wind moving gently around them. "You told the council," Jack said eventually. Nilara didn't pretend not to know. "Yes. You want to bond. Now." She looked at him, eyes soft. "I don't want to wait until more enemies crawl out of the shadows. I don't want to wonder what will happen if you don't return from the next trial. I don't want to leave anything unfinished." Jack took a breath, heart thundering in his chest. "You're sure?" "Yes," she said. "But that's not the real question, is it?" Jack looked at her. She was glowing again. Not just her skin, but something beneath it. She was radiant, alive. And for the first time in his life, he realized what it meant to be drawn to someone not just through attraction or respect, but by gravity itself, like their souls had orbits. And they'd finally aligned. "I'm sure," he said. Nilara exhaled slowly, her markings pulsing brighter. Then you must be tested one more time, she said. Not with fear, not with survival, but with something more dangerous. What's more dangerous than a chamber full of killer plants? Jack asked, raising an eyebrow. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his skin. Vulnerability, she whispered. The bonding chamber was older than anything Jack had seen. Carved into the side of a canyon, it opened into a wide dome, its stone walls etched with glowing inscriptions that moved like flowing water. A pool of soft blue light shimmered at the center, casting dancing patterns on the floor. The council was present, but distant, standing in shadow. This wasn't for them. Nilara stood opposite Jack, dressed in ceremonial black, her markings glowing, like starlight beneath the fabric. She looked at him with a seriousness that made the entire universe feel quiet. This is the trial of essence, she said. It is not performed, it is not faked. If our essences don't match, the bond fails. And if they do, then we become something neither of our species has ever seen before. Jack stepped into the pool of light. Nilara followed. They reached toward each other at the same moment. When their palms touched, everything changed. The chamber faded. Jack was no longer standing on stone. He was nowhere, everywhere, floating. He could feel her. Not her body. Her memories. Her emotions. Her hopes. Her pain. He saw flashes. Her as a child, staring at the stars. Her first command. Her fear when Krell first grew dark. Her moment of doubt when she thought Jack would never return. Her breath catching when she first saw him again. Her loneliness, her pride, her love, and then his own memories bled into hers, his mother's goodbye, his father's anger, the war, the dream that kept him alive. Her silver hair, her eyes, that kiss on a cliff at 14. They were no longer two people. They were one shared thought, one shared light. And when the chamber returned, and they opened, their eyes, the markings on their skin weren't just glowing, they were merged. Jack bore Australian patterns. Nilara bore new blue lines, his lines. Human essence woven into hers. The council gasped. The light pulsed once and then went still. The bond was complete. Nilara touched his cheek, breathless. I feel you, she whispered. Always. Jack smiled. I'm not going anywhere. Then, a sudden tremor shook the chamber. An alarm sounded in the distance. A guard burst in, breathless. There's been a breach. Krell has escaped. He's armed, and he's coming here. Jack's markings flared instinctively. He felt Nilara's thoughts rush into his, quick, sharp, tactical. They were already sinking again. But this time, it wasn't just emotion. It was power. And Jack, now bound by something older than blood, older than law, stood taller than he ever had before. He wants to end this, Jack said, turning toward the door. Then let him try. Because he wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of something eternal. And this time, he wasn't fighting alone. The ceremonial chamber still echoed with the soft hum of the completed bond, the ancient markings on the walls glowing brighter than ever before. Jack could feel Nilara's heartbeat, not just beside him but within him. It wasn't metaphorical anymore. Their bond was real, powerful, and alive. Then the tremor hit again, this time harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. A section of the outer wall cracked slightly with a low groan, the runes flickering like nervous fireflies. A blaring siren echoed across the settlement, deep, rhythmic, and unmistakable. Breach alert. Krell was loose. Again. And this time he wasn't running. He was coming straight for them. Jack and Nilara didn't need to speak. The moment the guard delivered the warning, they were already moving. Instincts fused. Jack scooped up his discarded combat vest, slipping it on with practiced ease. Nilara's ceremonial robes shimmered as they reshaped into tactical armor, reactive threads responding to the adrenaline rushing through her. This makes twice now that Krell's Nearly killed us, Jack muttered, voice steady but sharp. Nilara checked her plasma sidearm. He won't get a third. Their bond pulsed with shared energy. Her speed, his strategy, her control, his unpredictability. Together they were something new, something Krell didn't understand, something he feared. But fear made people dangerous. They exited the chamber together into the twilight of the dual suns. The sky was turning a deep red-orange, casting jagged shadows across the settlement's smooth structures. Alarms blared from high towers, and guards scrambled along the perimeter. "Report!" Nilara snapped at a young guard running toward them. "South gate breach," the soldier replied breathlessly. "He's not alone. 3 others with him. Loyalists." "Krell's not trying to escape this time," Jack said grimly. "He's making a statement." Nilara nodded. "He means to destroy the bond, literally." Then a second explosion rocked the air. This one was closer. A fireball erupted from a nearby structure, casting a plume of smoke into the sky. It was one of the Elder Archives, housing thousands of years of Australian knowledge. Sacred history. He was targeting symbols, culture, unity. Their bond had already become a symbol to the people. That made them a threat to Krell's cause, and Jack knew what that meant. They weren't his real target. The people were. "If he can't destroy the bond," Jack muttered, "he'll destroy everything it represents." Nilara cursed softly. "He's going for the Hall of Unity." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Where the treaty is being finalized?" Nilara nodded, jaw clenched. "Delegates from Earth are still inside." Jack was already moving. "Then we stop him there." They reached the Hall of Unity just as the first shot was fired. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, striking the outer shields with sizzling impact. Panic rippled through the settlement as civilians fled into underground shelters. Jack and Nilara dashed past a patrol of guards returning fire, slipping into the side entrance of the hall. Inside, the long chamber was a marvel of engineering. Curved crystal walls that shimmered with shifting colors, an enormous central spire rising from the floor to the ceiling like a beam of light. And beneath it, chaos. Krell and his 3 loyalists had breached the hall's rear doors, forcing their way toward the spire with stolen weapons and explosive charges. 2 Australian guards were already down. 1 Earth diplomat crouched behind a pillar shielding a wounded colleague. Krell spotted them instantly. "You," he roared, his markings pulsing erratically. "You dare wear our essence, human? You poison her." Nilara stepped forward, her weapon raised. "You've already dishonored everything we are, Krell. Surrender." "Surrender?" Krell sneered. "To this?" He gestured toward Jack with raw hate. "This outsider? This experiment?" Jack didn't flinch. "I'm not your enemy, Krell," he said calmly. "I never was, but you sure as hell want to. Be mine." Without warning, Krell lunged faster than expected. Australian physiology had its advantages, and Krell had trained his body for speed and brutality. Jack dodged the first strike, countering with a calculated blow to Krell's ribs. Nilara flanked, using their bond to mirror Jack's movements, covering his blind side. They moved like one. Perfect rhythm. Every time Jack moved, Nilara anticipated. Every time she advanced, Jack adapted. It stunned the loyalists. The others tried to engage, but they were slower, less coordinated. Within moments, 2 were disarmed. The third reached for a detonator, only to be dropped by a swift kick from Nilara that sent him crashing into a wall. Only Krell remained, breathing hard, snarling. "You think this is over?" he spat. "Even if you kill me, your bond won't survive the next trial." Jack frowned. "What are you talking about?" But Krell only laughed, wild, bitter. "You passed the chambers, the illusions, the poison, but you haven't faced truth. That's the final trial. That's what will break you." He pressed something on his wrist and vanished in a shimmer of light. A cloaking field. Gone. Nilara cursed, her eyes flashing. "Coward." Jack touched her arm. "He's not done. He's planning something. Something for the final trial." Nilara turned to him, breath catching slightly. "Then we end this before he gets another chance." They helped the wounded and secured the chamber, but Jack knew this wasn't the end. Krell had failed to destroy the bond physically. Now he was going to try something worse. He was going to challenge it from within. Later that night, Jack stood alone again, this time in the silent central atrium of the settlement. He was staring at the reflection pool, watching the glow of his new markings ripple on the water's surface. He looked changed. Not just outside, inside too. Nilara appeared beside him without a sound. "You've stopped asking if you belong here," she said quietly. "I think I've stopped wondering," Jack replied. "I'm not sure if that's the same thing." She smiled. "It's close enough." They stood in silence for a while. The night sky above was full of strange constellations, stars Jack didn't yet know, but he would. He turned to her. "This final trial, what is it really?" Nilara took a slow breath. "It's called the trial of truth. It's rare. It's dangerous. It requires bonded pairs to face their deepest incompatibility, not fear, not pain, but difference, core beliefs, instincts, values." Jack blinked. "You mean it puts us in conflict?" She nodded. "If the bond breaks during the trial, it never reforms." Jack looked back at the water. "And Krell knows this." "He does. He thinks we'll fail. He hopes we will." Jack reached for her hand. Their markings lit up instantly. "Then we prove him wrong." Nilara squeezed his hand gently. "We don't have to be perfect, we just have to be honest." Jack's voice was low. "That might be harder than the poison plants." She smiled again, soft and proud. "Then let's see if this bond is strong enough to survive the truth." The next dawn came quickly, too quickly. The council summoned them to the Temple of Reflection, a place even older than the bonding chamber. There were no weapons, no armor, no technology. Only two mats, side by side, in the center of a circular chamber filled with soft blue light and a low humming sound, like the heartbeat of the world. The elder stepped forward, her expression solemn. "You are not here to fight. You are here to listen, and to face the one thing that may threaten your bond more than any enemy ever could." She looked between them. "Yourselves." Nilara and Jack lay down on the mats, hands joined. "Begin," the elder said. As the lights dimmed and their thoughts began to merge again, Jack felt a chill not from fear, but from what he might discover. Because this time, the test wasn't about saving each other. It was about not losing themselves in the truth. Jack felt weightless, not the kind of weightless that came from zero gravity, but something deeper, like falling inward into a space without light, without walls, without end. His body lay still, on the ceremonial mat side by side with Nilara. But his mind, it was somewhere else. The trial of truth had begun. He could no longer hear the humming of the temple or the distant voices of the council. Only the soft rhythm of his breath and hers remained, like two heartbeats slowly sinking into one. Then came the shift. He was standing again, but not in the temple, not even on Proxima Centauri b. It was Earth, his Earth. Blue sky, a gentle breeze, the smell of grass and rain. He stood on a hillside above his old neighborhood, the one he hadn't seen since before he joined the colonial forces. Houses lined the streets below, familiar, comforting. But something was wrong. He turned, and Nilara was there. Not in her armor, not in ceremonial robes, but in plain human clothes that didn't quite fit her body. Her silver hair was loose, falling across her shoulders. Her golden-orange skin was dimmer here, as if Earth's light couldn't reach her properly. She looked out of place, and she felt it too. "This is your world," she said softly, scanning the neighborhood, "but it doesn't feel like mine." Jack walked beside her in silence. Children played nearby, chasing each other around a garden. A couple passed them, holding hands. They stared at Nilara, long, lingering looks filled with confusion, some with fear. Nilara turned her eyes to him. "Would they ever accept me here?" Jack hesitated. That hesitation stung her. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe not at first. Maybe not ever. Her markings flickered. Would you still choose me if it meant being alone in your own world? Before he could answer, the world shimmered again. Suddenly they stood on her world. The colors were different. Deeper reds, more intense purples. 2 suns above cast long shadows, and alien birds glided overhead. Now it was Jack who didn't belong. A crowd watched from a distance, all Australian, all silent. Their eyes unreadable. You cannot stay here, said one of them, stepping forward. It was a younger version of Krell, his face colder than ever. He is not of us. He cannot know our ways. Jack looked at Nilara again. She stood still. She didn't fight the vision. She didn't deny its truth. He will die here, Krell's younger echo continued. He cannot survive the climate, the customs. He will break, and when he does, he will take you with him. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Part of him did believe that. The environment here was toxic to his body. Their customs were impossible to follow fully. He'd always be a step behind. Always a stranger. So why was he here? The world melted again, reforming into a strange hybrid. A barren place with half Earth, half Australian features. 2 suns but human skies. Alien structures but human technology. A compromise. But it was lifeless. No people, no laughter, no voices. A voice rang out from above. Neither his nor hers. Is this what unity looks like? A place where neither side belongs, where both lose everything. Jack looked around at the silence, the emptiness, the beauty without life. No, he said aloud. This isn't it. Nilara appeared beside him again. You don't want to live like this, she said. I don't want either of us to lose ourselves, he replied. But maybe that's the test. She blinked. What do you mean? Jack turned to her fully now. The trial doesn't want us to be the same. It wants to know if we can still stay, even when we're not, even when it hurts, even when it's hard. Nilara stepped closer. Even when the world says we shouldn't. Yes, Jack whispered. Especially then. The dreamscape around them pulsed, shifting once more. The barren hybrid dissolved into something new. A home. Not Earth. Not fully Australian either. But a space that felt alive. A cliffside overlooking both sea and desert. Twin suns low in the sky. A structure built from Earth materials blended with glowing alien stone. Inside the windows, warm light. A shared life. And laughter. Children's laughter. In the yard, 2 small figures played beneath the alien trees. Their skin was a softer gold. One had Jack's wild chestnut hair. The other had Nilara's silver strands, shining under the twin suns. Their markings pulsed faintly. Unformed, but present. They were real. They were possible. Nilara stepped toward the vision, her hand to her mouth. Jack followed, standing beside her. I didn't know I wanted this, she whispered. Neither did I, Jack admitted. But I think this is what the truth was hiding. The final voice of the trial echoed all around them. Will you walk forward, knowing the weight of difference, and carry it together? Jack didn't hesitate. Yes. Nilara nodded, her voice steady. Yes. The light engulfed them. Back in the temple, Jack gasped as air rushed into his lungs. His body jerked once, then stilled. Beside him, Nilara did the same. Their eyes opened at the same time. Their hands were still linked. The council stood around them, watching in stunned silence. The markings on their skin glowed not with separate patterns, but as one single flowing language. A script that danced across their arms and wrists, intertwining like rivers finding the same sea. The trial had not broken them. It had remade them. The eldest counselor stepped forward, her face unreadable. You have completed the final trial, she said, voice filled with quiet wonder. and something more. The chamber pulsed. The ancient walls glowed in agreement. Even the floor vibrated softly beneath them, as if the world itself had spoken. Nilara rose slowly, pulling Jack to his feet. "We're still different," she said, her eyes shining. Jack smiled. "That's why it works." Weeks later, Earth and Australian leaders gathered inside the rebuilt Hall of Unity. Where there had once been fire and chaos, now there was harmony and anticipation. Delegates wore both earth silks and Australian woven cloth, a symbol of the first true interspecies alliance. At the center stood Jack and Nilara, not as guests, but as the first bonded pair between species. The bridge. They each placed their hands on the treaty's glowing interface. A flash of light sealed the agreement, and with it a new age began. The crowd erupted, not just in applause but in something deeper, hope. 1 year later, a small house stood on the edge of a cliff on the Alpha Centauri colony. Below it, the twin seas roared against alien rocks. Above, twin suns set in golden fire. Behind the house, red desert stretched far and wide, dotted with shimmering alien trees. Inside, Jack stirred a mug of coffee while Nilara hummed softly in another room. She emerged with a toddler in her arms, his skin golden, his eyes wide and curious. His small forehead bore the first faint traces of markings, blue and gold mixed together like rivers across moonlight. "Your son tried to disassemble the food replicator again," Nilara said, amused. Jack took the child into his arms. "That's my boy." "You mean our boy," she said, kissing his cheek. Jack nodded. Their markings pulsed softly together as they stood in the fading light. The reward she had once promised him wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't just a kiss, or a moment, or a ceremony. It was this: a life, a love, a future built not despite their differences but because of them. He looked out over the twin horizons, his heart steady. "Worth the wait?" Nilara asked softly, echoing the words from so long ago. Jack smiled, pressing his forehead to hers. "Every second."